Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today I'm very excited to have Andre Ferrella with us. Andre is an evolutionary artist, a spiritual engineer, multimedia architect, creator of the Spirit Box, discoverer of the living picture, and also an interdimensional and metaphysical fine artist. Andre graduated as a medical illustrator from the University of Toledo Museum of Art School of Design, and received an MFA, Master of Fine Arts, from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Andre brings to his art a lifetime of spiritual study and exploration of the world's sacred traditions and iconography. It's so great to have you on the show, Andre.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I'm honored to be here.
I'd love to start with some of your origin story. I know you had an incredible childhood of having your artistry discovered at a young age, and also some really cool spiritual discoveries as well. So, why don't we start there?
Sure. I took my creativity and the gift I was given seriously when I was 12 years old. I had painted a portrait of the baby Jesus, and I was studying Oliver Edgar Casey, the great sleeping prophet clairvoyant that I can get my hands on. And I took a book out of the Carolyn Kennedy Library in Detroit, where I was born and raised, and practicing advanced East Indian yoga. And I formulated myself a prayer that I still pray to this day, which is, Dear God, bring through me whatever information is necessary for us to receive on this side of the veil. And that has been my life's purpose. So when I was 12 years old, I wanted to know, reading Edgar Casey, what are the Akashic Records? And that started and spurred my entire quest to learn more about what the Akashic Records are and what do they do and how do they apply to us here in this dimension. And that led me into reading many books on spirituality at the time. This is in the 60s. And there were some things out, not like there is today. So it was a lot of searching and trying to find the information that I so was hungry for. And along the way, throughout my life, I had met channelers. I don't even know who they were at the time, what they did. Psychics, astrologers, witches, Wiccans. I mean, you name it, religious leaders. And they always had something important to tell me. And throughout my life, all these channelers and psychics that have just given me information were talking about the same thing about me and who I am. And these are different people throughout years who do not know each other. And I learned to recognize that these were my spirit guides that led me into the path of the enlightenment path that I am on, to be of service to the divine, to source, to infinite intelligence, to God. And that has been my life's purpose.
So, when you started at 12 years old down this path of study, did you learn how to open your own Akashic records? Did you just go get readings uh, from Akashic Records readers? How did you learn what your spirit guides were trying to tell you? Did you get direct connection, or did you get it through channelers?
Both, actually. I've been to the Akashic Records, at least what was the representation for me of what they are. And I saw this library of books, and I've been there several times. And it was a library that, if you looked left and right, up and down, filled with books, filled with books and books and books and books, went on infinitum, all directions. And that was pretty interesting. That's quite mind-blowing to see this. I didn't know what it was. And then I also had the opportunity to visit again. And when I visited it again, I saw these books, and they looked like, these old leather-bound books. Now, this is a representation, because I'm sure it's a multi-dimensional. Akashic Records are a multi-dimensional alpha, omega, no beginning, no end cycle of information. So I pulled out one of the books, and I opened it up, and I saw this script. And I was able to read the script. Now, I didn't remember what I read, unfortunately, but it was so fascinating because I was also writing script like that, similar, but it was very different. This was much more advanced script than what I was writing. So it gave me an opportunity to actually have a representation, a symbology of a symbol of the Akashic Records. It's really interesting because as we progress, what we know, what we see, what we've learned, they give us representations that we are familiar with so that we can have that experience and understand it. Now, that's my belief, because I've had many incredible open-eyed visions and experiences, and they bring to me representations of information that I already know, such as Mother Mary, God, Jesus, Buddha. And those representations are not particularly those individuals, and they also might be, but it gives you an acclamation to the experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful. It's amazing. It's incredible.
And you drew a beautiful painting of baby Jesus when you were 12 years old. It looked like you were a master at such a young age. So,
Thank you.
can you share more about that? How did that come about? What was the result of you drawing or painting that picture? Yeah.
Yeah, my mother gave each of us three children a gift of creativity. My brother learned music, to play the piano. My sister learned dance, particularly ballet. And they gave me art, an oil painting set, when I was very, very young. Oh, God, I might be even like 8 years old, because I won contests in grade school for pancake events as an illustration. Max Fluffy Pancakes. So it was my mother, who's still an artist, a practicing artist, at 90. She'll be 97 this April. And she gave us those gifts of creativity. And as soon as I got that oil painting set, I just loved it. I was fascinated by it. And to the point where I knew these artists, like Rembrandt. I've heard their names. I've seen some books my mother showed me. And I would go into the trash cans in Detroit and try to find window blinds, because window blinds back then in the 60s were made out of canvas. Canvas. So I would find these old window blinds in the garbage, and I would bring them home and cut them out. And I would bring them in my parents' basement, and I would light a candle, because that's how I thought the old masters painted. And I painted on canvas. And I started to paint these paintings, and they were fairly primitive, not bad. And then I painted this painting when I was 12 years old, the baby Jesus, and I was just so mesmerized myself that I was able to do that. And it just spurred me into wanting to draw, and paint. Then my parents, at the age of 17, took me to an exhibition at the Detroit Institute of Arts called Rembrandt 300 years after Rembrandt. And just was so blown away by Rembrandt because I saw a portrait that he did when he was 18 years old. And I said, oh my God, I have to get going. So I came home and I never stopped painting. So it was quite interesting because I moved from Detroit to Toledo because my father's position got transferred in my senior year of high school, which was really, really hard for me. It was a hard change because I knew everyone at Riverside High School, and I didn't know anybody in Toledo. And in a lot of ways, it was my blessing because I didn't know anybody. I didn't have friends at the time. And I came home from high school and I just painted all the time. And that really, really started me to develop into a higher evolved creative person. I started to paint these still lifes. And if you were to see these still lifes at the age of 16, you couldn't believe that someone who was 16 had done this. I actually was on TV for it as well, way back then, TV 13 on the June Miller show. And it taught me about reincarnation because I already knew the old master formulas as I was cooking them on my parents' stove. And I knew the old master techniques, and these paintings look just like Dutch master still lifes, and no one had taught me how to paint. Now,
Wow,
that's a
that's
mind blower.
amazing. Yes.
Yeah. So it was also, the encouragement of people going, wow, you're amazing, you're incredible, you're on TV, I'm having shows, local shows. And that also really spurred me. And then I went to the University of Toledo Museum of Art School of Design, and which people didn't want me to go because they didn't want me to change my style because I was already a really amazing painter. And I studied with a woman called Diana Addy. She was professor of drawing. And in the first quarter, because we were on quarters at the University of Toledo at the time, I took a drawing class from her. And I was an okay draftsman. I could do shading and make things look fairly real. But it wasn't until I took her class that I learned how to really, really draw. And we drew the bones, the muscles, the entire nervous system, the blood vessel system. And I learned how to draw the figure from a real master. And within one semester, she ended up starting to call me the Little Raphael. Now, Raphael is the great Renaissance master, right? And it was, wow, oh my God, it's such an honor. So drawing is the core, is the key to all creativity. I mean, I draw every day and continuously to this day because it is the pure expression of the subconscious. It is the divine connection. Painting is one thing, but the core of it all is drawing. So that led me to become a medical illustrator. I had formulated that program myself because there was no program at the University of Toledo at the time. And I was drawing cadavers at the Ohio Medical College. And I never used it as a profession, but it gave me the understanding of the human body. And once you can draw the human body, and once you understand the physics and the amazing system that we all contain as humans, you have to believe in something higher form or an evolution of you that is a higher consciousness or a supreme consciousness, because it is absolutely amazing and it is fascinating when you study it. So I had to study a lot of sciences. So I have a huge science background as well. And that led me to graduate school at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I got my Master of Fine Arts. I was accepted as a printmaker because in undergraduate school, I not only did drawing and painting, but I also did printmaking. And I was accepted here at the time, which was one of the best printmaking schools in the country. And I had wonderful professors. And I did printmaking, lithography, etching, woodcutting. And, that to me, that was getting a little bit boring. It was wonderful to do this work because I was incorporating photographic imagery into my lithography and into my etching plates. Because you can make multiple prints, right? And that led me into the reverse of that. I took photography and made that into printmaking. So in other words, I took the photographic negative and I drew and I scratched on it and I embellished it with inks and rubbed ink into it like a printmaker would into an etching plate. And I would also paint on the negative. And I would make these prints, and they were multiples again because they were prints, printmaking experience. And they were amazing. I just couldn't believe how I couldn't believe because it was just, this is all guided stuff, right? Little do you realize later on in life how all this is connected and guided. Because photography deals with light. And that's what really, really fascinated me was the ability to capture light. But not only light and shadow. We're catching light and the antithesis of